I said, I'm a proud dad, right? Both of my kids are in the Lord's house today with me, amen? Love y'all. Thank you for making me a happy dad, right? Says, wise son makes a happy father, amen? We're thankful for Toby and Taylor both being wise, and now I got a big ball bat at the door trying to beat all the guys who think they can date my daughter, right? Amen. God is so good. We appreciate, of course, the hand of the Lord in our kids' lives, and there's wonderful opportunity of being a father that, to take it serious is it's one of the most important assignments we have as dads. And the scenarios in our world, it kind of makes, fun of dads. I often mention to my wife and to others that the channels, they make the dad look like he's such a fool, but they're in a $500,000 house, and the kids got all they need. They got the latest clothing on, but the dad's a fool many times in the encounters and the attempts to, bring things to his family. He looks like he's inept and has no wisdom, and that's all a ploy and an attempt of the culture to destroy and to minimize and to undermine. I had one friend that would say, to my kids early on, you don't have to listen to him. And needless to say, I had to address that with that person. I know they were just saying, you got to be independent, you got to make your own decisions. But they were attempting to, potentially pull out from under the relationship with me and my kids, my authority, my leadership, my influence in them. So I had to address that. And don't ever say, the kids, you don't have to listen to your dad. And we know that that's even, permeated into, the culture, of course, music and songs and some of the things that we deal with today. It's a constant barrage of things against what God has ordained for your protection, right? For protection, for guidance. Authority is not there. Of course, authority can be, used wrong and can be abused, but authority is in place actually for our protection. And a father's heart, a father's love, a father's strength is there to protect the family, to fight for the family, to work hard, to provide for the home and the family, and to give guidance and plan and hand in hand with the wife in many of those ventures to accomplish, the best for the family. And as a father, myself thankful for that opportunity in my children's life. I've seen the constant attempt of the enemy to destroy that position in my kids' lives, and you've just got to fight for that in prayer, fight for that in your communication with your children, and remove all the fear, and just jump right in and say, hey, I'm not a perfect man. I oftentimes say that to my kids, hey, I'm not perfect, but there's nobody else that cares for you as much as I will, right? And you guys know that with your own fathers. Your fathers cared and care about you. They may have been very flawed people, right, in some situations, but they are human, right? But they're, I told my son just recently, I said, you usually have a few good friends, and I said, I'm one of those, right? I'm one of those in your life, and I'm going to fight for you. I might, go the wrong way sometimes in my perceptions of stuff, but I'm correctable, right? I'm able to get back on board and gather my bearings on that. So Father's Day 2025, a father has to have the strength to hunt and kill for his family, to have provision on the table, but he also has to be gentle enough to hug the little boy and little girl who's looking to him for encouragement. The father has to have the power to defend his home in case of an intruder, the power to defend his possessions in case of a crime. But he also has the finesse and has to have the finesse to hold the little girl's hand as she takes her first steps. A father has to be bold enough to stand in the street and on his job to build a huge building or a home or a factory. But he also has to have the gentleness to come home, hug his wife, thank her for her contribution, look her in the eye and say, we're fighting for this thing together. The father, one that God gave broad shoulders to, not to beat down the family, not to control or hurt, but to love and to be strength to depend on. I often say it, that I hope I'm leaving trails of faith, a trail of faith, footsteps of faith. I used to leave a trail of tears, right? But thank God for his goodness. Now I can leave footprints of faith. And that's a father's assignment, to leave those footprints of faith that your family, your wife, your children, anybody that comes along can step in and they'll be firm and a place of safety for them. A father has to know what time it is for his kids, for his family. I often say this, you can't give a 10-speed bike to a 3-year-old, right? The father has to understand the difference. A father and dads have to identify when there's danger around. The father has to identify the value of things. Whenever, oftentimes as a father, what the father values, the children will catch that, right? The family will catch that, what is valued. If you're not valuing church, the kids are not going to value church. If you're not valuing God's presence, your children aren't going to value God's presence. If you don't value the mother, your children are going to disrespect the mother. If you don't value grandparents, the children are going to disrespect the grandparents. So it's a major influence of the father in the home. And the father also has the ability to discern opportunity. The opportunities that are in front of the children. I loved it. I was grateful for some of the training I had early in parenting because I was able to help a little bit with understanding when a child is inclined to a certain thing, to give them more opportunity with that for their growth, for their maturity. You may find the gift of God in that area of their life. So for instance, Toby, he would always want to grab the ball and the bat, right? He'd always want to play with the ball and bat. And he had many good years of baseball out of that. And Toby and Taylor both, they wanted to play the piano and the drums, So they both, we just tried to give them more and more opportunity. And they were able to go through the great program, the magnet program at Woodside High School here in Newport News. And that was with a music focus and keyboard focus. So both of them excel in that, and I'm thankful for that. And as a father and their mom as well, we just tried to identify what they were good at and give them opportunities for that. And that's how it is as you go through life here, right? Amen. So a father can view opportunities and help his children through that. Also, what is worthy of your attention, worthy of your effort, right? As a father, you can strive to walk alongside your children, and because things are quick nowadays, and fulfillment is seemingly quick in people's hearts. And as a father, you guys know who are dads here today, you know that sometimes to get what you really want and what God has for you isn't a quick fix. It isn't a quick enjoyment. It takes a little bit more effort. And so you kind of stand strong with your children through that. And you teach them that it's, some things are worth fighting for, worth waiting on, worth digging a little bit more to get to, right? And that's one of the major opportunities of a dad to show and encourage the children on what is worthy of your effort and your value as a person. The enemy always wants to destroy the value of good things, doesn't he? Don't you see that in our world? He wants to destroy, diminish. And there's a battle for territory in life. There's always, every battle is for territory. If the enemy can keep someone's mind wrapped up in the wrong thing, he's won that territory. If the mind isn't conquered, right, we know the mind we have to take every thought captive. And the mind is a huge part of our lives. And if we don't win the battle of the mind, fathers, mothers, everyone here, if you don't win the battle of the mind, everything in your life is impacted forever, right? It's impacted. Your mind will take you places that is going to diminish the good that God has for you if you don't win that battle. So we've got to win the battlefield of the mind. I think a great preacher preached about that, a great lady preacher, right? Joyce Meyer, we appreciate her wonderful teaching on that. But we look at those things as a battle for territory. And it's the same with the father. If the father is a drunk, if the father is entrapped by sin, entrapped by immorality, entrapped by some vice that the enemy, just think of the impact that rips apart in that family. And that's the huge battle for territory, because the hearts of them children, the hearts of that wife, the hearts of the community is impacted and loses some of that luster, right? Some of that beauty that God has for a family. So, men, I want to put some strength in your backbone today. Amen. Stand strong. Be mighty. Be a mighty man. Be a powerful force for God. Don't be ashamed of what you believe. Don't be ashamed of who you believe when you trust the Lord. Don't be afraid to say things that's going to encourage your children. Don't be afraid to see and identify what they do well. We can get into that trap, right, where we're constantly reminding them of how they made mistakes. Don't do that. Highlight the good things. Highlight the positive things your children are accomplishing, and reward them for that. Amen. Celebrate.